Hey, I'm live. I don't know what happened. That's funny. Sorry about that, guys. I was actually live. I did a whole section there. Since the time it ended, I was ready. I was on point. My wife came and actually brought me ice cream, and I'm sitting there talking to you guys like everything's going on. And I looked over at my screen, and it was like, oh, wait a minute. Why is it still showing the intro? Oh, my gosh. I'm talking to the chat. Everything's good. You just missed a great, 5-10 minutes worth of 5 or 10 minutes worth of great great stuff. Well, hey, the link's in the pin to the top. Sorry. So, hey everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I was just going through. I don't even know if you could hear me talking or not. Probably not. I think it wasn't even live. That is hilarious. Yep, you missed my wisdom. And my nugget for tonight is that sometimes the biggest problem, at least for me, is I get analysis paralysis, right? I'll find a problem in my apiary or with anything, and I will think about it and think about it and think about it. And why is this colony not doing well? Or why is there this issue or that issue? And I was singing James's kudos and really thanking him for just picking up the phone and answering questions and a lot of the stuff that I've been doing over the last 4 years before this year, I know how to do, right? I know how to do splits. I know how to do stuff like that. I know how to do a walk-away split and add eggs and all that stuff. Been doing it all for 4 years. But when I look at my apiary as a whole, and we're going back 2 months, right? Coming out of the winter for us, and it starts to warm up. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying, man, these are not how I want them. This is not what they should be. And identifying that there's a problem, that's pretty easy. Now, figuring out how to fix that and turn it around has been the issue for me. But the willingness to put away what I know and listen to somebody else tell you, do this, do this, do this, and get that, then you get that focus. So you go from this having a bunch of stuff to do to now I've got to do this like an order of operations, right? I've got to do this and I've got to do this. And how do you determine that? You got to work backwards, right? So you got to find what you've got to have done. And then you've got to work backwards on what you have to do to get it going. And so with the queen grafting, believe it or not, the queen grafting has set this thing in motion right now. So, and then, the ability to, you got to look at the weather. Well, I'm supposed to do this on this day, but can I do it? Is it too cold? Should I do it a little bit earlier when it's a little bit nicer? And work it that way. And I'll tell you what. So yesterday I made 11 splits. And I didn't make wimpy splits. I didn't make frame of food, a frame of brood, put them in a box with some foundation. I didn't do that. I made splits out of colonies like I would be buying the nuke. If I went to buy a nuke, That's how my nukes looked. 3 frames of brood, 2 frames of food. Because I'm trying to start a colony based off of what I split off of my other colonies, right? So I want that as strong as possible. Yes, I'm eating ice cream. My wife brought it in right after I thought I was live, but I wasn't live. I was just talking to StreamYard, and it wasn't live. And I saw you guys chatting over there. Somebody wake Bob up, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm sitting here talking to you. And I looked over on my other screen, and YouTube wasn't going. But I'd like, hey, Brian from Flower Street, if you're able to join, please join. Anybody that wants to join, definitely join, because I think this will be a great topic. Because there's Charlie. Okay, great. Hey, Charles.
Hey.
Well, the stream started off with a bang. I mean, I did the countdown. I hit go live, but then it gives you another that drop down that says go live again. I didn't hit that. I got sidetracked, and
I clicked the notification. I'm like, when is this guy ever going to go live?
I was live, just nobody was seeing it, and it was some of my best content ever. What I was talking about. And I'm like watching the chat and talking, hey, everybody, how's it going? Thanks for coming in, the whole 9 yards. And nobody was seeing anything. And then my wife brings me a bowl of ice cream. So I'll tell you what. Right now, James has got me on a mission. Absolute search and destroy mission of bees. I officially feel like my apiary is in the bee making business. It's a different field than it was 2 months ago when I was like, man, I don't know why my colonies are declining and this and that, But
it's wintertime.
For you, it's wintertime.
Well, I mean, it was maybe close to 50 to get today, but down there, I mean, I know you guys have a lot more warmer weather, but.
Well, I was just talking about making the splits that I made out of my colonies. Now, these are not splits that are going to be resold, right? They're not nukes that I'm selling. These are nukes that I'm using to make more production colonies.
Right.
So as compared to what I would do maybe next month, right? Make a smaller split, or the nukes that are coming in a little bit smaller split, let them grow up into the 5 frames where they'll be resellable. These are slammed. And I added the queen cell, right? Mm-hmm. So they're going to start declining down, but then the queen will come back and she'll start laying, and then it'll start. So I'm giving them a buffer, right, to grow, but it really starts putting that whole timing thing in. Okay, so what's going to happen in 3 weeks? Well, 3 weeks, she should be back laying up some stuff. Well, what are you going to need in 3 weeks then? Well, you're going to need foundation, right? You're going to need drawn combs. So now I got to go back through my colonies and start introducing some drawn frames, pulling some capped honey or whatever is on the outside, and start preparing for them to have room to lay and grow. So now I've got this cycle. And like the nukes today, we were talking last night in the queen cells, they were capped a day earlier than what I had expected when I went out there, right? And I had pulled them a day earlier. Well, they're supposed to hatch Wednesday. But now, after our conversation last night, I'm like, but are they going to hatch on Tuesday and not Wednesday, right?
Good.
So they were all in queen. I put them all in queen cell protectors, took them out to my nukes, pulled up that frame of brood, and I don't have a frame here handy. Pull the frame up, and stuck that right in, like near the center of the frame instead of near the top where the cluster will be on that brood, that's where that queen cell went.
You want them right in the middle of the brood.
For the warmth, right?
Well,
And
they're going to go towards the brood and keep it warm over that cell. So you put the cell where the brood's at, right in the middle of it, so they jump on that. But so you're not letting them hatch in the incubator?
Not this round. Nope. They got celled because you know what? Tomorrow it's supposed to be in the 60s, and then it's supposed to get in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's supposed to be at like 88 one day this week, later on in the week. So she will be able to hopefully get out there as quick as she can.
What's the nighttime temperature?
Tonight is going to be bad. Tonight is like freezing.
Really?
Tomorrow, 43 is the low. And it only goes up from there for the rest of the next couple weeks. So it was a timing thing. I put that egg in, or that cell in there so they could keep it warm, and she can hatch out when she needs to. But this is that whole cycle, right? So I took the first round out of the incubator, those 11 cells. Well, guess what? I had 8 or 7 cells in there, right? So I pulled those 7 cells out, and now they're in my incubator. Well, guess what I did? I grafted 13 more. Put them, well, I did put some emerging brood in there, but then I put a bar of 13 grafts. Now, what I am noticing.
Why did you go 13? Why didn't you just go another 20?
Because I've only gotten 11 on one and 7 on the other. So maybe 10 is like the sweet spot for the thing. And then I just gave myself a couple extra just in case.
Well, like you say, it might be the, what do you call it? The amount of bees are in there and stuff.
And then, you know, but the thing is, that spreadsheet that I've been printing off every time I graft, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this one, they're already in colonies. Nope, that's a lie. This one's already in colonies. This one's the one I just moved to the incubator. Now they're supposed to hatch on Sunday, but the ones I just grafted today are supposed to be capped on Saturday. So Saturday, I've got to make mating nukes, but between now and then, I'm going to check to see if that cell hatched out, right? First thing. So if the cells I put in today hatched out, well, great. If they didn't, or something was wrong with them, they're going to get replaced out of the 7 I've got in the incubator. That eliminates a big problem, right? If I've got too many. But then the next round, I can go back and do the same thing. So whatever's left over, Saturday, I got to make mating nukes or make splits out of my... Now, here's the thing. This is kind of one of the things we're doing. So let's say I go to one of my colonies that I've been bitching about being sorry, right? Sorry, queen, no good. That's the time I'm pinching the queen, taking whatever she's got, and dividing that colony up into 2 5-frame nukes. Right? And
why don't you do like Brad said? Why don't you take that queen and put her in a small nuke box and use her for resources?
I could. And to this point, I have not crushed any queens yet, because the colony that I thought was going to be sorry, I opened it up and had 10 frames of bees in there. So I was like, well, she's not that sorry. So she ended up being split in half, and made a nuke with one half and left her with the other half, right? So
Well, don't rush it. I mean, you got these cells, you just put cells in, but now you're telling me it's going to be cold.
Only tonight.
Yeah, but how cold is cold? You say freezing?
32, 31, 32, 33. I think it said 33. I just looked at it a little while ago. But that's the low. And then after that, at least now you've got this thing. So this grafting deal, if you're not grafting, I know you are, Charlie, but if you're not grafting in the chat, man, do it.
It's fun, isn't it? It's fun.
Well, it's fun, but not only is it fun, but now I don't have as much worry as far as, this queen got smashed accidentally. Mm-hmm. Does it suck? Absolutely sucks. However, I can make a replacement relatively easily. Or, hey, it sucks she got rolled, but guess what? I walk into my incubator and I got a queen cell, or I can go to a mating nuke and I got a virgin or a mated queen over there, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's not going to be that temp very long either. So maybe an hour or two, and then it's going to start heating.
Main thing of it is you got options with queens.
Flexibility, right? Flexibility.
It's just like last September, around where I'm at, you better have your act together by September. Like we were talking to Frank last night, and Frank did a split in September, and it's like, what did you do that for?
Yeah, that was. I wish I could have been a fly, or like inside Brad's brain when he was listening to that. I would have been like, I was like that. I was like, what are you doing, man? Why? I mean, I don't understand. You're asking questions that you already know the answer to. I know he's a smart guy. He's a smart guy. So
he's in the same general area where I live, you might say. Same weather pattern area.
Brian, what's the latest you would split or make a queen there?
Pushing it, I would like late July. Early July is the latest I would do it.
Well, like last night when he said September, if he got a queen in September, in my mind, I was like, yeah, that's in case you accidentally killed your queen. You have something to go in there, right? To help sustain that colony that's already doing good, that you just accidentally blasted her. So,
well, what I was getting at is right around September, I think it was, I had 3 or 4 honey hives, and they were queenless. I could tell. But I had 3 or 4 nukes sitting there, strong nukes. They were double mediums or triple mediums. There was enough I could put 10 frames in there, and I papered them in, just dumped them right on top of the other original hive, and everybody's fine right now. But I had that insurance policy is what I'm getting at.
Well, yeah, I'm going to tell you what it's done for me, what grafting's done for me. So everybody, well, maybe they don't. I know I've said it enough, but last spring I had 12 colonies. Remember? 12 coming in, right? Then I did those early splits, which I made 10 5-frame nukes. Weak, right? Hey, Brad.
Hey, Brad.
Weak nukes, and they died, right? Without queens, just splits, walk away type splits. Which
right there's your answer. Walk
okay,
away.
But listen to me now. So if you think about out of 12 colonies, right? That's 120 frames of bees if they're packed. 120 frames. I made 10. I took 50 frames out of 120. I mean, is that right? 12, 120. No, and I took 25 out, right? So that's almost like 30%, almost 30% of my colonies that I sacrificed and just killed, right? Doing that. And so you go from 12 down to 9 real quick. And then I built up, right? Buying queens, doing stuff, built up, bought some nukes, whatever. But then coming in out of winter into spring this year at the same time, I had 17. So I net gained of 5 after all of that work last year. That is not good. That is terrible. That is, and not to mention net gain on 5, I bought 5 nukes. So my work, I didn't really grow any. I had my 12 or, my 9 plus 5 is 14. So yeah, gained 3 colonies out of all that big whoop, right? So nothing special. But this year, at this point, not even being into spring yet, I've got 34 colonies, all that have either a mated queen, a virgin queen, I'm going to say mated queen that hadn't started laying yet in a couple of those, or a queen cell.
Yeah, but let's not count them until they...
Right. Well, we know there's a process, but that's what I'm saying. Boxes of bees right
Yeah,
now.
but they're not, she ain't mated and laying yet.
Right. So you understand what I'm saying, though. There's a big difference. That's 3x over where I was last year at the same time. Close.
Yeah, but you didn't do the dumb thing like you waited 2 more months before you started doing all this stuff.
Yeah, I didn't split anything really, unless it had a queen cell on it, then it got split. And so the big thing was, you know how to do things, how to do the splits, how to, but sometimes, and I know for a fact we're guilty of it down here. We make our splits very weak, and then we expect them to just grow and blow up. And next thing we got this huge honey production colony, but they never get started good. Right. And that's another thing I did wrong last year, is making these splits, even the ones that I was adding mated queens to, making weak splits. Well, she's got this weak cluster of bees, right? Or small cluster of bees, and she's not going to lay more than they can cover, right? So they just constantly just take a long time to ramp up,
If they ramp up. I mean, you're describing a situation in my area where if you got a small colony, you got a queen, let's say the queen is laying, she's there, but you only got 2 or 3 frames of bees. There's just not enough bee power there for her to overcome that. It might take her a whole summer to overcome that. And that's where you help her out by putting a brood bomb in there of 5 or 6 frames of brood. And then you got, hopefully she'll take off after that. If she's not, then she's going to, you might as well get rid of the queen.
Large splits and stop them in early July. Yeah, that's what I learned. I think somebody said something about feedback here. Let me see in the comments. I kind of
Texas was wishing he had a place he could get syrup like you do. Don't we all, though? That's a nice setup.
Well, the funny thing is, Ashby, he was on that stream the other night.
Yeah, I heard that.
He lives the same different distance from that place as I do, but he's in North Carolina, and he's been buying bags and bags of sugar too. So
from like Walmart, he was saying.
Yeah, I'm like, nah, you need to call me, brother. I'll get you on the right path there. No, I think
what gets me about, I watch Ashby, and I'm like, it's like, get yourself a full-size pickup truck so you can do something. And he's got a 55-gallon drum and he's got the same kind of a setup I got, with the electric pump and everything. And I'm like, well, hook it into your light connection, where your trailer thing is. I said, I did that this past summer. That, get rid of that battery and charging. And, all you got to do is turn the light switch, your marker lights on, and you got power.
Well, he could also buy the syrup and put 5 pails of syrup in there. That's 25 gallons. And then fill it the rest of the way up with water. Now you got 55 gallons of 1-to-1 for,
Or, I mean, as many bees hives he's got, he needs to get a trailer and a tote or something.
Oh, yeah.
He's got to scale up.
Well,
how many hives does he have?
He's got 100 or more, I think. He's got quite a few yards. He had 1 yard, had 50 in there in just 1 yard. I mean, he's a full timer. I mean, he
still works his day job.
He have a day job, does he? Because I know he does vegetables, he does market gardening, and he also does the bees and stuff like that.
I thought it was just his wife that worked.
I don't know. I'm not sure. He's just getting married or got married or something like that.
That's right. He just got married. He got married when the bear tore up his hives.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure Charlie, if he could afford it, a truck is exactly what he would want to, right?
Yeah.
Probably preaching to the choir on that one. It's probably on his list. And I like his channel. He's a friendly guy. He's got a great personality, and he talks the business end of it too. So he's talked like 5-year plans and looking down the road, and there's some good information there. He makes a lot of his own equipment, so there's yet another person you can watch if you're looking to make your own equipment. He dips his own hives too, so there's some great information there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that kind of led me into having that direction, right? My goal for the year was to grow. Technically, I've done that already, right? So it's like the ability to get, graft queens. I wish I would have learned that 3 years ago. It'd have been a different game for me probably by this point. I don't even know if there's that much larger that I want to get right now, because I don't have anywhere to put other hundreds of colonies. I could. They'd be all over my yard, around my house. You couldn't go out and cook out, probably, but I could do it. But the thing is that just having the direction, so to speak, right? It's okay. So now I've got cells coming out. It's kind of forcing me to have, what's my next workload, right? I can't just go out there and just I might check these few colonies today. Now it's like, hey, I got to get in these colonies. I got to make up some nukes for these cells and be ready for them. And so it's kind of, now I've got these nukes that have queen cells. Now we all know that not all of them, Bob, just stick to 1 hive. You can grow to 2 next year. I know, right? Well, hey, Michael, the syrup doesn't mold, brother. The syrup in the bucket does not mold. It doesn't start molding until after you mix it to water. So, once you mix it to water, just don't mix up more than you're going to use in a period of time.
Now, see, I don't understand that. When I put syrup in the fall, that's when I feed it.
Mm-hmm.
It's took down by the bees, but within 6 to 8 hours at the
ones that I have feed on.
When do you have a mold problem? Unless you're feeding and they don't need if they got nectar coming in, they're not gonna eat the sugar.
Right.
So why are you feeding sugar to begin with?
I've got feed on 4 colonies. All 3 of my licensed 6-frame polynukes get it because I'm trying to grow those nukes. Well, the one license is my cell starter finisher, right? So it's going to have it in there regardless. And then the other one is my licensed deep colony that I'm grafting the larva out of. Because my thought was, well, I want not only the queen cells to have the best nutrition they can get, but I also want the queen and the larva that they're laying to have the best.
Yeah, but the big thing about that is that's where you're getting your grafting material from. If you feed that hive, then she's going to have lots of rule jelly in the cells, and it's easier for you to graft that larvae out of there when you have plenty of jelly.
And it seems
so that's a good technique.
It seems like every time I do a graft, I'm getting smaller and smaller larvae. So I don't know if it's
you're just getting better and better as far as knowing what to graft.
Right. So that's the whole
and that's what I told you and anybody else, is that it's kind of hard to explain. The best way I explain it is like I've told you before, is like find the jelly, but you can't see anything in the jelly. Then you know you're in the window of that 12-hour-old window of larvae, because there's larvae there, because they're not going to put jelly in any cell unless there is larvae there.
But being able to see her is the other problem.
If you can see it with your naked eye, it's too old.
I can barely see them with the magnification on.
Well, then you need to adjust the lens power and see.
Well, what I'm saying is that's the size larva that I was getting today.
Yeah.
That even with the magnification on, looking down at the frame with the tool, I could see them, but barely. Right.
And that's
the ones I was like, yep, I'm going to try to get that one and try to,
But you're getting the gist of it now. Yes.
What kind of magnification are them glasses?
I just switched the lens before the show. I was doing like 4x or something, and now it's 5x.
Yeah, but
funny
it also,
Bob, I bought those tonight.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Yep.
They're
starting to get ready.
It's
how much are they?
$30.
$30. Yeah, $30 on Amazon
With the light.
Yep. And it's a
don't get all wound up about that light. Get yourself a little $3 LED light. That little light on there is like almost worthless.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, we're both blind already, so I'm already down on them with the magnification. The biggest problem I have with them is my depth perception on the frame.
Yeah, just let's see. Yeah, get one of these little ones like here, LED.
Mm-hmm.
You can get them. I bought one. It's even cheaper than this metal one at Walmart for $1. And it's bright. It's really bright and nice. But the thing of it is, you can take it and you angle it in order to get the light just right to make that larvae glisten, and then you can see it. You gotta unmute yourself, Brad.
His wife came in.
Yeah. So, Charlie, I got a question for you. Another thing I'm trying to get ready for my queen rearing season is my refrigerator. So I bought a refrigerator that has a bulb in it, but I want to put a fan and a thermostat in it. Are you happy with the components that you bought for yours?
Yeah, I got it's an Inkbird off of Amazon.
Do you have the specs on your video?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just check on that.
Bird at Lowe's too, though, right? Or somewhere like that.
Yeah. Well, what I did was I bought the heat lamp and the fixture that has a squeezer thing. It's a clamp. That squeezes on something. That I bought at Home Depot. For whatever it was, I'll say $25 or something like that. You just don't get the red heat lamp light. You can buy the white. The white is cheaper. The red is for animals, and it costs you like $3 or $4 more.
Yeah,
no need
I know what you're talking about, but I actually have a fridge that already has a bulb installed in it because this was from a beekeeper already.
Okay.
So that part I got taken care of. I just need the other parts.
You need the
The controller and the thermostat.
controller, yeah, which
Right.
has the it has the thermostat cord that you stick in there, and then
And
it
then I want
turns.
to put a fan in too. Do you have the
Yeah.
fan in yours?
I have a fan. Yeah, all
Yeah.
it is, it was a little teeny 4-inch fan
That's all
that
you
a
need.
friend of mine had that her aunt had, and she passed away. And I said, I like to have that fan, and I got it. It looks like a little miniature. It was for like a desk where you kind of blew air on your face, you might say. But
Yep.
that's all you need is a little something, a little of that. I put that on there to keep that air circulating around so there's no hot spots
That's right.
in there. And the let me go to my thing.
And then, do you need anything fancy to drill a hole through the refrigerator, or is it just the
I
regular
didn't drill anything. I put the wires through the hinge side of the door.
Okay.
Because I fed it around that hinge side, and you got that little rubber gasket, and I put some Gorilla Tape to hold it in place where I wanted it. The main thing is the temperature probe. You want to try to get it to where it's dangling in midair, so it's not touching anything that might absorb the heat to
Okay.
give you and all that stuff.
And then I was thinking, like, I was going to put a thermometer in once I get it going, just to kind of find the hot
you could do
spots
that.
or whatever.
I think I want to try to find one of those little like can refrigerators with the glass door on it, or the wine refrigerator.
Yeah.
That way I can have it here. Oh, hey, those are hatched because I can see them walking around through the glass in there, right? Instead of where I've got them now. I've got to kind of pop the lid off and let them go. But I mean, it works good. The egg incubator works good because I've got the one that's got the fan on it that circulates the heat, and it's got it's almost like a queen excluder, right? It's got that mesh, the plastic mesh on it, and it's got a groove around the whole bottom so you can put water in it to keep the humidity at the correct temperature.
Yep.
And I mean, it works for this. I mean, I'm not making thousands. I'm only making 10, 15 at a time. Well, I haven't made 15 yet. I guess I'm making 11 or 7 at a time.
That's what I'm going to be doing. So that's all I need.
That's it. I mean, now if I'm technically, I guess I could, there's no need for me really to stop grafting. I don't need them, but I could sell them, whatever the remaining. And there's going to be a percentage that aren't going to return that I'm going to have to replace. And we already know that going in, right? That's the game, right? Numbers. So, and well, you need one. Honey warming cabinets.
Yeah. Thanks, Robert. I've seen that one too. That's my other resource I'm going to go to as I order parts. He's got a really nice one. He's got like a stainless steel cabinet. Nice, lots of space for whatever he needs in there.
But it's, I mean, we're talking about keeping something 93 degrees, right? 93, 94 degrees. So it doesn't really have to be that heavy duty. Hell, you could probably use a styrofoam cooler and rig it up to work the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, matter of fact, I saw Gus Mitchell because everybody was talking about these flyback splits. I'm like, so I had to do research on what a flyback split was. It's just, it's just a damn split. That's all it is. It's just a split.
Like a walkaway?
No, it's just a split. So a flyback split is you're taking out all this, like if you're taking a 10 frame colony, you're taking out all the resources, right? But you're leaving the least resources in the mother colony with the queen and a frame of brood and stuff in there, because you're getting all the foragers are flying back to the original colony. So if you're taking everything else out, like I did yesterday, and took a triple deep and made 4 nukes out of it, well, I reduced the mother colony down to a nuke because she didn't have that much left in there, and let all the foragers fly back, right? So technically, if that's a flyback split, but I've been doing that before. I just never called it a flyback split, So
I had to do a split today because I picked up a hive and checked the in between the two boxes, and I had swarm cells. Luckily, I found the queen, so I moved her, and I made two other splits, and I left a one cell with the original colony.
Now, when will your flow really start? I mean, I'm not saying full blast is hitting, but we're getting a little bit of nectar right now, or we were before the cold snap. So
yeah. I think it's going to be like 3 weeks before anything really starts. I mean, we barely getting any kind of clover right now.
So like the first to second week in April will start.
Yeah. Now down south where Lee and them at, it starts 2 or 3 weeks before me. So their privet is just starting to bloom right now.
Right.
And, mine won't be for another 2 weeks after that.
So that's kind of why the splits and everything in the queen cells right now, that even drawing comb, if you're building a colony and you're not feeding them, those bees are going to need somewhere to store. They're going to draw comb.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily have to put feed on them. But, I mean, if you do, you do. But right now, my yard looked like chaos today with all those splits. I mean, that mother colony that had all those foragers going back, I think half of those foragers was like, this colony looks good. Let me just go in there. There was drift between those nukes that I very evident. I mean, it's like they were just hanging out on the outside of another colony and going into their mother colony. So, but yeah, they were drifting pretty hard to those other nukes too. So it's all good. They needed help as well. We'll just give them, give them everything they need.
I did the one I did today was when I came back from work, and so it was right before dark really, and I was just going over there to check one or two to see how packed they were getting because we hadn't been in them since it's been cool.
Mm-hmm.
And when I split them apart, they kind of like pretty much stayed put because it was getting dark and getting cool, so they didn't have too much flying around.
Right. That's like the stuff that I've split off right now. Beauty of it, other than checking to see if the cell hatched, they got a month. I don't even have to touch them really, because there's nothing. I mean, they're going to hatch out. It's going to take them a week, right, to harden up. Then they're going to fly out and, knock on wood, get mated and come back home. And then she's going to start laying. So it'll be a few weeks before that's anything, right? So we got a month before they start even starting to regenerate their population. So yeah, it's fun times.
Bob, I heard you talk about how your comb quickly disappeared as you made those splits. I think you mentioned it last night. You put 5 frames of drawn comb in each split?
Yeah, well, so what I did is I took that triple deep, right, that I had.
Yeah.
And they each got 3 frames of brood and 2 frames of brood. I'm sorry, 2 frames of food and 3 frames of brood. Just like if I was making a nuke to sell Brian, that's what they would get, right? The only difference is it didn't have a laying queen. But other than that, if it had a laying queen, that I would feel happy selling that to somebody and they would be able to get going. But in doing that, it splits those resources out a lot, right? So
yeah. So what I was going to recommend would, because they've got 3 weeks a month to do nothing, or they need space for something to do. You might have been able to stretch your comb a little bit farther if you put 4 frames of drawn comb and 1 frame of foundation. And that gives them room to expand. It gives them work to do. That stretches out your comb a little bit. Right. And then you're going to get some comb drawn out as well. Yeah. Like at some point, that queen's going to come back mated, and they're going to go, we need more space so this queen can start laying. And they're going to pull that comb out really quickly. So
yeah, so that's kind of what the next order of operations we've been talking about is now going back into all of my colonies. And if they've got any capped honey in there, or, start pulling those frames out, move frames out, drop in a frame or two of foundation for them to work on. And, that way, just getting ready for that next evolution that's coming, right?
Sure.
So, and I also, last year, those nukes that I had purchased, I put them right in a 10 frame box, put 5 frames of foundation on them around their nuke and let them go, and they did fine. But, just making sure she's got room to lay is going to be the trick. And over the next little bit, the brood that's in there is going to be hatching out, right? So I could start pulling frames out. Main thing, I just didn't want to mess with her too much with the queen cell in there and give them a couple days, because she was supposed to that James McNally spreadsheet. All I'm saying is I love being able to print them out. Technically, if I was Brian, I'd have me a notebook, probably a 3-ring binder with holes punched in it, so I could say, okay, I grafted this one on the 11th, so this is what I'm doing there today. But the ones I grafted on the 11th, which are the ones that I just put in the colonies today.
I love how you have to find the right sheet. Wait, which one is it? And then you're rifling through.
Now they're 11th, 15th.
There you go. Now they're in order.
Right? So the ones that I have that I put out today are supposed to emerge on Wednesday. Now, in our conversations last night, I made the statement that they were capped, and Brad had brought it up, I think, that they were capped a day earlier than what my spreadsheet said. So my thought is, well, that means they could actually hatch one day earlier, because they don't care when you put them in there, right? At the end of the day, it's the whole queen cycle is 16 days from when they were laid. So it doesn't matter when you grafted them, it's by their age. So if they hit day 16 tomorrow, then they should hatch out. I'm thinking could be tonight even. I don't know, between tonight and Wednesday, Thursday. So in the next few days, they'll be coming out. And then the beauty of it, if I was Johnny Carson, I'd be throwing my pages off to the side, or David Letterman used to fling them, right? So the ones I put in the incubator today are due to hatch this Sunday, right? Well, guess what? The ones I grafted today are supposed to come out of their they're supposed to come out of the cell starter to go to my incubator on Saturday. So what's going to happen on Saturday is I'll make up, well, I should know by that time which one of my cells hatched and didn't hatch, right? So I'll know which colonies need to get one of the cells I have in my incubator. And once I determine that, I'll be able to say, okay, let's say out of these 7, 3 of them needed to get a new cell. Well, now I know I need to make 5 new nukes, right? Or new mating nukes. So then I'll make those up on Saturday with the remaining of the cells that are going to hatch out on Sunday, right? Following me so far?
No. But it gets complicated, and that's why I got away from doing like frame-based splits, because this split's set to check this day, this one's set to check 2 days later. At least when you're doing batches, like I loved Brad's recommendation of marking things like round 1, round 2, round 3, right? Mm-hmm. So it's 3 sets of dates that you're trying to keep track of instead of like 20 different dates. Like that's hard for me, and I'm not good at it. I've lived the paper mess.
Right. So you know this then, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So these got put in today. By Saturday, I'll know if they hatched.
Right.
So I have to go through those, see which cells hatched and which didn't. Whichever ones didn't, out of these next 7 that are in the incubator, they'll get a cell out of those. Right? Follow me so far?
Yep.
So that'll tell me, okay, well, let's say 4 of these had to get a new cell. Well, then I only need to make 3 more nukes. So then
you're trying to set up round 2 so it follows round 1. So you're replacing what you're pulling from the previous one. And your logjam, here's your logjam, is going to be selling queens, because you're going to be selling them one at a time, emptying out your mating nukes to be filled one at a time. Whereas it would be nice to clear them all out and then fill them back in again. So that's going to be your next thing to solve.
But now, once I go through and make those other nukes up, what do? I pull these ones out because now they're ready to go in my incubator, right? My incubator's empty now.
Yeah.
Take the ones I just grafted today, put them in the incubator.
So you're figuring out a rolling system.
Right. Then anything that needs to be reselled over that period or requeened, I've got more cells to replace them. So
yeah, and you can save yourself all that time by letting them hatch in the incubator and then knowing which one has a queen in it.
Your bees give you that time before they're in the tree to make that split. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, Brad had to make that split today, right? So my thing was, could I have waited to split those till yesterday, till today? Sure, I could have. But it was the timing thing, right? It was like, well, is it going to be too cold for the bees to fly? I didn't know. So I took the advantage of the weather I had yesterday. I'm like, well, I'm going to use this little bit warmer temperature. Get out here. It was the weekend. I didn't have to worry about work. Made the splits. Came back today. I knew I was going to have to pull cells. So since I made the split, I emptied out my incubator with my cells and cell protectors into those splits. Took the ones out of my cell starter finisher, put them in the incubator. Oh, now I got a spot in there. So now graft up as many as I want to graft, drop them back in, let them go again. So just trying to get, like Brian said, make that flow, right? And what if I don't need them? Oh my gosh, worst case. Well, I don't need that virgin queen. Well, maybe that queen's sucking now, right? So we'll put her in a 2-frame nuke and let her get mated. And if she comes back mated, then maybe one of the other queens gets high.
Then you wait around and you sell her.
Right. Or you can sell her.
And that's $40.
So
I wasn't going to sell mine.
You have the woodenware in order to do all that.
I wasn't gonna sell mine because she had already stopped laying eggs. She was fixing to go.
Well, what I've got right now is, I know it doesn't seem like I have a lot of woodenware by my apiary. However, I do have 30 maiden nukes, right? I've got 30 maiden nukes. I've got 35 frame nukes. I've got
fill all them up with queens.
And I've got 20 pro nukes. You know, I've got stuff to put bees in. What I don't have is drawn comb, like everybody else, right? Is always trying to get the drawn comb. But as far as being able to have a place to put a queen cell, I could walk out to one of those swarms that are filling up their box already, pull out a frame, put it in a maiden nuke, drop a cell, and boom, got bee power in there.
All right, Brian, it's an Inkbird and it's a ITC 308 freezer thermostat heating cooling plug temperature controller outlet. There's a bunch of them. They all kind of look the same, but some of them are like Inkbird Wi-Fi 308s. And you don't really need that.
Well, and feed. What did I miss something? And feed. I'm not feeding right now because we got nectar coming in. The only ones I'm feeding are the ones that need extra feed, like the cell starter.
But I'm kind of in the same frame of mind of Charlie, as like, keep your mating nukes as a number in this side of your mind, and your production colonies as a number in this side of your mind. Because a 2-frame mating nuke isn't a colony. It's just a way for you to roll those queens.
Right.
Now, if you move, so I'm not going to count, like, I don't count, I have my production colonies and my mating nukes, and I don't count it as a colony unless it gets to like an 8-frame box. If it's a 5-frame, then it's a nuke. Once it gets to an 8-frame box, then I consider it a production colony. Because those 2-frame nukes, if you have 30 of them now, they're not going to be 30 at the end of the season. You know, they're going to roll a whole bunch of queens from you, and they might turn into 30, but it depends on what you do with them.
Well, that 2-framer, let's say you introduce a virgin, she's going to stay in there for 3 weeks. She's going to, the first week is she's inside. Second week, she's, first week she's inside. Then she'll go out and get mated. Then she, as long as the weather's decent, and then come back. And by the end of the second week, she should start to be laying. And if there's a lot of room for her, she can go in there for about 3 weeks. Then after that, you need to do something with her.
Right. Well, that's
and then when you do something with her, you might need to pull out one of the frames that she's on and put her in a 5-frame nuke someplace, and then put another empty in there, and then put a cell or another virgin. And it's a holding tank.
Right. That's all it is.
And then I have my production hives, I have my nukes, and then I have my mating yard, which is right behind.
But you use nukes as production hives too, right?
Yeah, I get honey out of them.
So I mean, I've always tried to count it if it's like a 2-framer. I try not to count those. I mean, obviously in your mind it's a queen and it's got some bees in there, but it's not a colony, right? Like you're saying. But yes, in that 34, I do count 6 of the 34. So 28. We'll say 28 colonies. I count nukes as colonies right now. Yeah. But are they all queen right? No. They're cell right. Some of them got virgins. Some of them got queens.
All I'm saying is wait until she goes out, she gets made, and she starts producing.
Right.
Then you have a colony.
Right. Absolutely. I've got 34 boxes with bees in them. We'll say that.
Yeah.
Bob, before you asked me when's the last time I do splits, and I had a hard time answering it because that's not really how I manage my colonies. Like I'll make my mating nukes at the beginning of the season, right, and then I'll do the 3 frames with the frame feeder, and then I'll roll queens through them, and then at some point I'll decide I'm done, and then I'll stack another box, and then I'll overwinter it in 2 sets. So I don't really make splits after the solstice. I'm making queens after the solstice, but I'm not making splits. Right. So usually around mid-July, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't need any more queens. I'm going to start getting those mating nukes up to colony size to my liking so I can overwinter them.
Right. So that's kind of my thing. Was at the beginning of the season, I didn't have that bee power. Like, everybody's like, hey, we need to make these splits, right? Everybody's splitting right now. Split down here. And I'm like, that's great if you got the bee power to do that, right? And like people are talking about, like Charlie says, you got to equalize. Well, I don't have. If I do the equalization, if I take that from this colony and give it to that colony, am I giving it to one that sucks and it's just going to waste that? Or do I let this colony just get as big as they can and then split them and then just terminate that queen and re-queen her in there? You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the juggling act I've been doing.
Well, the thing you have to determine is kind of hard does she suck because she's a bad queen running out of sperm and all that kind of stuff? Mm-hmm. Or is it the fact that she doesn't have enough bee power in there for her to be able to do her work and let her support personality be able to keep things going?
Right. So that's and that's the whole juggling act that we play, you know. But now it's like I feel like the nukes. If the queen comes back and she's mated, they're strong enough to where I feel like in short order I could stack another 5 on them, you know, and let them get to work. But at the beginning of the season, I was like, man, I'm going to be in the same boat I was last year at the same time. And, you know, so
you're just rushing it, you know.
I'm rushing it.
Yeah.
I'm not. How am I rushing it now? Next week.
Just
Or 2
like
weeks.
you say, when you get that nuke in there and she's laying up and she's really doing a great job as they're packing out that 5-frame deep nuke, you know, put another one on top of that. And it might be, let's say, foundation, and put a jar, you know, some kind of feeder on there so they'll draw that wax out for you and she'll lay up more. Now you got, I don't know, 7 or 8 frames of brood in there, and then take that one off, put it on its stand and lock it up for 4 days. And then then after 24 hours, drop a virgin in there or something, you know. It just takes time to get all that done.
Absolutely. It takes time, which was one of the hard things in my mind. That's what I was saying back to the beginning on not being afraid to say you're doing something wrong and restarting from the beginning, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you're plotting it all out. In 3 weeks, it's going to be here. Well, maybe it might be there, and it might not.
Right. And that was one of the key things in talking to James is he's like, we're going to split the bees when the bees need to be split, not before.
That's what right. That is what I'm trying to say, or at least I know what I want to do or how to do. It's just it's just like I had a nuclear in that back row behind me there that was 2 frames of bees. I looked them all over really close. There wasn't any queen in there. There was no eggs. There was no brood. There was nothing about a month ago. And I knew I've been going through my nukes ever so many days or weeks. And I know there was one in there that was a little lacking on bees. And there was a day that, like you said, it was a Sunday or something like that. It was warmish. I had the time to sit there and manipulate. And I found that weakish queen or weakish nuke that needed more bees. And I just pulled frames out of there that were empty completely, put them off to the side, pulled those 2 frames of bees that were in that other nuke that was going to die anyway, just laid them right in there, you know. Right. And it was quite interesting. As soon as I put them in there and I just kind of looked at them a little bit, or getting ready to put like the inner cover on, you could see the bees going up and across the frames and right over where the brood was, because they knew there was a queen there. They could smell her and they were happy. So
no fighting either, was there?
No, there's no fighting.
That's what I did.
That's one of them bullshit wives' tales that they tell the beginners.
I took the whole nuke and dropped it right in the middle of a colony. And I mean, the queen was gone, right? She was dead and they were queenless, but they had a lot of bees in there. But
the thing is, remember what the situation is there.
Queenless.
They had been queenless for multiple days, possibly. Yeah. All right, so they're hungry for a queen. And then you took that nuke, which was 5 frames, I presume.
Yeah.
And the queen was probably in the center of that, laying eggs.
Took 5 out of the middle and dropped them right in the middle of the
Drop them right in. Well, she's got her bees around her. Well, the other bees are like, they know they're doomed. And when you gave her a queen, it's like, hooray, we can survive and all that.
Well, it's definitely been neat. The grafting. You guys should have let me in on this like years ago. But it does give you that to-do list, so to speak, right? So you don't get that day necessarily. I mean, you do get them, but where you can walk out to your apiary and be like, I could be doing this, but I don't feel like doing it today. Now it's like, I've got to do this on this day, or we're going to have chaos, So that's kind of
Well, I went out there this evening, and I checked the nukes for feed and for bees and stuff like that, and I put that little short out, and I wanted to try to put some content out or whatever. And anyway, but I had fed them. I got to thinking about it today. I said, okay, the last time I was in there was a Wednesday of last week, so it had been about 4 days or so or more, and some of them had, depending on the size of the sugar bricks, they had a lot of it and it would last them quite a while. And some of them were just, they had blown through it big time.
Right.
So, and I happen to have another sheet cake fan full of sugar bricks. And I went down the line and, shot that little video with the, my phone and all that. And, threw all the bricks into everybody. But it's like you say, it's timing. I know within around 4 days or so, I need to be going out there looking to see what's going on. And I already know Sunday is going to be a bee day because it's going to rain here Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The weather's going to be in the 60s and 70s during most of those days, but it's going to be rain. It's like today. It was 50 degrees, but it felt like it was about 40.
Right.
And, they weren't flying that much. And so Sunday's supposed to be like in the 60s or something and sunny. So that's it. I don't have to really worry about the nukes. I know where they're at. I need to go through them 10 framers out there and make sure there's still plenty of honey. I checked about 4 of them last week that they still had about 5 frames in there.
Night, Blaine. Let me tell you, getting some die outs over the winter sets you up for the spring pretty nicely. Today was my first day getting to go into some colonies, and ones that were light, I was able to just put frames full of honey from my dead outs in and just let them just keep going right from where they were. Today was my first day where I got to go into a hive, so it was really nice. It was finally
That's just
warming up.
going into the top, Brian?
No. I'd say about a week ago, I've gone into my colonies and popped the lids. And this is the question I want to ask you guys. So that time, I put on some global patties, right? On the top, I like my sugar bricks. They're starting to go through them. So I'd take a little off, make some space, add a global patty. Today, I went back, and those global patties were so soft. It was like I just made a batch of pollen patties myself, and it was like this. I'd never experienced them that soft and malleable. Like I basically scrunched it up into a ball with my hive tool, put it aside, and then had to like flatten it back out. And I've been using global patties for, this is my 3rd year now. I've never had them get that soft in the colony before. I don't know. You guys, do you have any opinions on that?
I've never had them before. I've never used them. I have a 10-pound box here. I'm going to use them in my cell builder.
Okay.
But
I heard Ian talking about them, and he said that it's the syrup that they're using, or something that they're using to make the patties, absorbs the moisture out the air and keeps the patties soft. Whatever they were doing.
It's different because I've been using them for 2 years and they work like pollen patties. This one, Brad, it's like I just made the batch and I'm like making the patty itself. It's that malleable.
I have some of my hives too, and they stay soft. And he said something about that. He said something about the invert sugar or something that they're putting in there that just they end up more moist on the hive than they do like when they're making them.
Yeah,
they don't.
So I wonder if
dry out. They don't dry out like the or it might even be the
Apis Biologic.
No, he said something else too. I forgot what it was, because they don't use like Bee Pro or there's no a substitute pollen. They actually make it out of
Real
pollen.
Real pollen. That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, real pollen, but there's two
Yeah,
other
sure,
compounds.
Sebastian. I'll do that.
Yeah, there's two other compounds they use to make the actual dry pollen, and I forgot what he said it was, but
I'm just wondering what's changed, Brad, because I've used them the past 2 years, and like they're so soft, it's hard to pick them up. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not even like
I
a
was
single.
wondering whether bees were just going to gobble them down.
well, mine ate them up within a week they were gone.
Yeah, they're in the process of eating them. They're just I've just never experienced that consistency change before.
Yeah. Well, see, I had Man Lake's whatever pollen patty they have, Ultra Bee. And
Yeah.
you can throw a half of one of them on there. I had some on there that they were getting moldy. I had been on there that long.
Right.
And
Yeah,
it's
they
like,
get-
all right,
they get-
Chuck,
They get hard too.
they'll get hard and the bees don't like them. And
Yeah, these global
It's
patties
like-
don't get hard.
yeah,
Well, the other ones I've had, like over time, if you put them there for months, like I've had ones that are overwintering and you pull them off now, those are hard. Like they start to dry out. So I'm just wondering what the difference is. I don't think it's anything different in my colonies. I don't know if it matters either.
It could just be the moisture in the hive at this time of the year too.
It could be. Yep.
Because I haven't used them yet in the heat yet, so I don't really know. And I did pick up like the lid on a couple of my hives during this last, because it gets cold in the morning, a little bit warm in the evening, and I did have some moisture on the lids.
What I'll do is I'll do a video tomorrow. I'll do a quick little short and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about, because I know I got bees in my backyard that I've done that with.
but I mean, I bought the Global down at Hive Life just to try them because it's got the real pollen, 15% pollen, and the
And the Apis.
Apis in there.
Yeah.
And in reality, around here, we have plenty of pollen. And I don't know. I mean, one year I had it, I guess it's been a couple years ago or more. And you put them pollen patties on there, and them 10 framers are just devouring them. And then the last couple years, they're like, we don't want them, because maples are blooming. As soon as the maples start to bloom, forget it. We're not interested. And all that kind of stuff. Even back we got a really, really warm day here. It's been probably a month ago. I put the dry pollen out. The bees were out flying, and the maples something was coming in pollen wise. They if there was no pollen, they're on that bucket of dry pollen like crazy. There wasn't 3 bees on that bucket all day. I was worried whether they had enough pollen coming in, and they were bringing in natural stuff. I said, that's it. I'm not buying anymore. Wasting my money on all that stuff.
I stopped putting it out like mid-January to the beginning of February, because like you said, once the maples start blooming, but they'll still go after those global patties, because we don't have a lot of maples around here. I mean, what we got is what people plant in their yards and stuff like that, and that's it. There's not a lot of wild maples. So, but that global patty works good over here because we don't have no winter. So, like for me, when I lost those 10 hives, I'm already back up from the splits back up to where I'm at, where I lost. I filled up all my empty spaces. I'm just waiting for queens to come back. But I mean, I got like the splits are like anywhere from 5 to 8 frames, that I made. So I mean, it's not nothing small. It's all big splits.
I like putting those patties on in the spring because of like we get silver maple pollen coming in late February. February 20th was my first date, but it's like an hour a day, 1-2 days a week, right? The windows that they get are so small with the fluctuating temperatures that we have, right? So they get that initial boost of pollen and it forces them to start brooding up. But there might be times where they're stuck in the colony without an ability to go out and forage at all. So I look at it as a way just to kind of level out their nutritional needs during those spring times where they can't get out and forage.
Robert there, Brian, says he had the same problem there a little bit, but he ate them up in 3 days.
Yeah. And I just wonder if it was a different batch for Hive Life or something, because
I don't know.
every other
The
one
only
I've
thing
gotten
they-
from
the only thing they
Montana.
did different. The only thing they did different for Hive Life is the Apis Biologics.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, I'm going to put that on my cell builder and see how that works. See if that doesn't help the situation.
That's what I used them for as well. Any queen rearing got a pollen patty with the syrup whenever I had
Usually
queen
I would
cells in there.
take the Man Lake pollen powder, and I still got buckets of it here. And I would make a slurry with it where I would take some sugar water or some pro sweet and mix that up to where it's like kind of like pancake batter. And I would slurry that along the top bars of those hives, and the darn bees would go up there like a bunch of pigs, all
Clean it
lined
up. Yeah.
all lined up side by side, just sucking it down. You know, I don't know whether they were sucking down just the sugar water in there or whether they were sucking down the pollen sub, but they didn't go after it as much because I found a nice fresh pollen frame. I mean, it was a deep that was completely full. Put that alongside my graph, and I had cut those shoulders off, you know, to make it closer. And then I put a frame of nectar in, and they seemed to chow down on that more so than the slurry. So I figured, well, I'll try these patties and see how that goes. And there was I was watching one guy, the guy down in Florida. I can't think of his name. That put Tim Huff, is it?
Tim Huffman.
Huffman, yeah. He was putting like taking them global patties because of the beetles down there and then slicing them long ways, little teeny strips, and laying them on top or actually in between the frames where the bees could come up and grab them, you know, eat them from the bottom side. And I said, that's a pretty good idea too.
Yeah.
You know, that's a pretty good idea, you know, where just, you know, a little strip. I know that's something that's you could, you know, instead of having all that patty laying on top of that strip or on top of the frame and it's not really accessible, that would be a better way of doing stuff.
It's funny. I had a kid with me today, is an 8th grader who was a student when he was a younger in my class, and now he wants to learn stuff about bees. So I picked him up and did the kind of ride along, and I'm putting the pollen patties on, and I'm telling him, now if we lived in the South, we wouldn't be able to put this full pollen patty on because of the hive beetles. That's going to be a learning curve for me when I move to the East Coast for sure. That's going to be something that'll change my beekeeping strategies.
Where are you going to move to in here?
Don't know. You know, my wife's parents, they live in Florida. They're getting up in age. You know, at some point we'll be helping them out. So we're not sure exactly, Charlie, but that's kind of down the road.
The Florida is nice, but it's expensive. Even the fact that they don't have tax down there.
And one of the reasons I follow Tim Huffman is he lives in the Fort Myers area, which is about an hour south of where my in-laws live. So every time I go there with the beekeeper's lens, right? What would it be like to be a beekeeper here? Look at that field. That'd be a great field to have bees, you know, all that kind of stuff.
You need to come up here, man.
I know it. Well, I was checking out the Asheville region. Jen loved Sevierville, so I was like, okay, well, you know, I love the mountains, so that Appalachia kind of speaks to me a little bit.
Yeah, I've been down to Asheville, and everybody talks, you know, around here, they'll say, oh, you know, some of the older guys will want to go to Asheville and retire. You know, I had talked to some folks who lived down there, and it used to be about 10 years ago really cheap. And now it's like not anymore. It's a hot spot down there. And I was down there, and I'm like, you know, this place is just like home. It's got traffic jams and rush hour, and you know, you go, I forget what road it is. You come out of Asheville, and you kind of go out into the country, and it's a 4-lane highway. And you know, it seemed like every 10 miles there's another shopping center. You know, they built alongside the road and everything. And I'm like, What's the attraction? I don't get it, you know.
So what I need is a sleepy little town like 30 minutes outside of a town like Asheville, right? So I can drive in and get everything I need, but I just need a couple of acres for my bees. That's all I need for retirement. You have to retire in Minnesota. No, thank you.
That's a freezer box state.
Yeah, thanks, but no thanks.
No.
As I get older, I look farther south. My body, my bones want the heat for sure.
Yeah.
Just get you plenty off.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up in New Jersey, so I'm familiar with mosquitoes and humidity. Not the heat like the South, but definitely the humidity.
Yeah, that's the one thing I noticed down there when we went to, up here it was like jacket weather, or we were with our hoodies on going down to get a load of bees, and we got down there and it was a little bit later in the season. I'll say closer to mid-April or something like that at the time. And man, I opened that truck door up and it's like woof, hit me in the face of the humidity and stuff.
Yeah, it's muggy.
And it's like, man, how do you people stand this? Stand what? It's like the humidity down there. You can cut it.
We got to get used to it. Like I used to do a lot of when I was working commercial work. I do a lot of chillers and boilers and stuff like that. And in the wintertime, man, it was so nice because it'd stay in the 60s and 50s. And then when we get that first heat wave coming in and getting into the 80s and the 90s, was like it took us a couple of days to adjust to the heat in the boiler rooms and stuff because it was just so humid, because we don't get very much winter. But then after a couple of days of the heat, we get used to it and it's back to normal again.
Let's see. Doing a invoice.
York County. What's so great about York County, Hope?
It's in upstate.
Yeah, Hope put in Bryan, York County, South Carolina.
You can get that cheap syrup up there.
That's it.
I'm moving because I can get cheap syrup.
That's right. I'll talk to my wife right now.
It's close to Charlotte, so it's like an hour from me, close to Hope. Yeah, it's a good spot.
Now, Hale.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I was reading Hale says, "Come to Louisiana, just don't bring the
politics, the Colorado politics."
Well, what's out in Colorado?
I don't know which Colorado politics he's referring to that he doesn't want to Louisiana, and I'm not going to step in that one, Charlie.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know either.
I don't get into politics that much.
Yeah. Colorado's a pretty purple state. There's the blue areas and there's the red areas, and you can pretty much divide it between the metropolitan and the rural. That's the way Colorado rolls. So we're very purple.
I think that's pretty much everywhere.
Well, in Louisiana, the only blue we got is around New Orleans. Other than that, the whole state goes red.
Yeah. And if you were to red and blue out Colorado, percentage-wise, much more of it would be red. But that's just because percentage-wise, much more of it is rural. You'll get like the metropolitan areas that are blue, probably not Colorado Springs. That's where a lot of the military bases, and you got a lot of Republican politics down there. But I mean, if you look at it that way, geographically wise, a lot of it's red and a lot of it's rural. Like that lady, Lauren Boebert, she represents a huge part of Colorado, but it's this huge rural swath that includes Grand Junction and Aspen. And just because of the amount of people in that area, they just kind of clump that whole geography all together.
I don't know why Hale was saying that though, because I think he had a Hillary Clinton sign in his front yard.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, I'm not sure which politics you're not wanting to bring to Louisiana, so I don't know what you're referring to specifically.
You're talking about the blue and the red and talking about graphics as far as like a lot of always blue in the cities and stuff. And
Yeah.
I find that's because there's where everybody wants to freeload, the freeloaders, they want the handouts.
Yeah.
And where the people are out in the rural country, they're more, I'll say, self-sufficient.
But there goes all your viewers, Charlie, right there.
Oh,
All the blue viewers just unsubscribed.
Well, it's funny because you would think that beekeeping is a
YouTube's gonna hit him on the minus subscriber list.
it's like a natural a natural thing, right? Which back in the day used to be like a hippie thing to do, right? Which is hippies are typically more Democratic than they are Republican, but it
Bunch of tree huggers,
oh my god,
right? That was kind of the thing for sure.
demonetized.
There goes Brian's subs saying tree huggers.
Yeah, all 8 of them, Brad.
Yeah, well,
I love everybody.
And that's what's great about these chats. The fact is, we're all tiptoeing around political talk, and we probably have different political views. But the fact is, it doesn't matter because we just are here to talk bees. And the cool thing is, we've probably met people who have different political views that we never would have met because of these kind of chats. And maybe that's not going to lead to a political conversation, but maybe it's going to lead to you thinking about someone who's got a different worldview from a different way. Like I live in Colorado. You can tag me as the Colorado stoner if you want, and whether or not that's true or not, people may perceive that of me just because I live in Colorado. Like when I first started coming on, all the jokes you guys made were about marijuana in Colorado. Right? Because that's what we know, right? We're gonna hit them there, and that's great. That's fine. So,
why was it legal first out there or something?
It was one of the first states. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in 2015, it was legal here medically, and then I don't know what year it was legal recreationally. It wasn't the first one, but it was one of the first.
I feel some glaucoma coming on right now.
I always feel like when I think of Colorado, I think of mountains, and out in the country, rural, and like elk hunting and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. You know what's crazy about Colorado though, and I didn't know this till I moved here. The whole eastern third of Colorado is like Kansas. I call that the Kansas part of Colorado, because the front range of the Rockies just comes out of nowhere. It's like a north-south vertical line. So you get to the Colorado-Kansas border and you expect to see the Rocky Mountains. It's just more Kansas. And it's another 100 miles till you start to see the front range.
Y'all have any Indian reservations in Colorado?
I believe there's some down in the Four Corners area. Lots of Native American history. I'm not sure exactly how many reservations here. I think we have some in the Four Corners area. And then down by, you see like southeast here. He's in the southeastern corner of Colorado. That's where like there's like Bent's Fort. There's some really cool Old West history down there. That's where the Santa Fe Trail cut through the bottom corner of Colorado going to Santa Fe. So there's some really cool Old West history down there. And then like the Arapaho Indians and the Sand Creek Massacre. There's a lot of Native American history here. Just I don't think that many, if any, reservations, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, we have a reservation in our parish, and you can tell where all the Indian reservations are at in Louisiana because there's a big old casino right dab in a slap in the middle of it.
Yep. And we've got some gambling here in Colorado, but none of it is related to any Native American entities at all. They're all old mining towns that have tried to revitalize themselves by being gambling communities. So there's like Cripple Creek, Blackhawk, Silver, Central City. So you can go up and gamble at places like that, but they're not Native American ones.
Yeah, all of our casinos are Native American, just about.
Yeah, I've seen that on the East Coast.
Yeah, they got Choctaw, they got Paragon. Paragon is going to have, it's just like 3 miles from my house.
It's like part of the Native American reparations deal, right? You guys can open the casinos and get your money back that way. Take money back from the white guys that way.
Well, they were, their land is on the federal, not state. So
Okay.
they can pretty much do what they want on their land. So the state can't control. We can't vote to say we don't want the casino here. You know, it's because it's on private land.
Gotcha.
So the state has nothing to do with the Indian tribes here. It's all in the federal.
Those are federal laws. Gotcha.
Federal laws.
See, that's part of the problem with the different marijuana laws. Like Peter says, go to Colorado and get stoned and gamble. Like that's been part of the problem with Colorado is we've had a lot of people wanting to come to Colorado because of those friendly laws. So you look at all the California homeless kind of areas. We've gotten a lot of those in California because they're just like young kids looking for the friendly drug laws. And if the drug laws were the same throughout the country, that wouldn't happen. People wouldn't be migrating from state to state like that, looking for the friendly laws.
Well, what I never can understand is with all these new friendly drug laws and stuff like that is that, well, you know, we sit here and crucify the drunk driver, but yet we're letting people get high and drive, you know, or
Well,
that's
it's still against the law. You can't do it and drive.
It's just harder to catch
I
people.
know that, but what I'm
harder to
getting at
catch
is
people.
that why allow it to be legal to obtain, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, it's
So our government gets the tax money and drug cartels aren't being funded through this?
Yeah. I mean,
I mean,
I
that's a big
talked to
reason.
one guy before all this started
Sorry.
coming out.
Yeah.
Where,
Look at all the fentanyl that's coming into our country from the Mexican cartels
yeah.
because there's no money in marijuana anymore.
My
that,
money's in marijuana. No, I'm just
the
kidding.
guy was talking about legalizing marijuana, I guess you'd call it, for medical purposes, you know, and he was a police officer, retired. And I'm like, really? You know, and he was telling me about where the drug companies have never researched the properties in order to, you know, for like glaucoma or eye problems and whatever, this kind of stuff.
That's because they weren't allowed to, because it was listed as a Schedule 1 drug. So no college university was ever going to get college funding. They wouldn't touch it because it was put in this category with other drugs that already were stated to have no medical value.
Okay.
So there was a reason there was no data behind the science for a really long time, Charlie. And now it's starting to come out because it's starting to get more normalized within our society. Folks like you back in the 60s were doing your own thing, right? Your folks, you know, like your parents weren't doing that back in their generation. It's starting to slowly catch up in the education.
Well, it's good. You know, that's
you made me get
those
political.
types of that information doesn't come out. The fact that, you know, because of the government squashing it down, there was no research.
I think we ought to research, see how it would do in a smoker, how it would affect the bees and the beekeeper.
Yeah, you see Charlie out of his hive with honey all over his face, with his hand in there, a bee beard.
You probably wouldn't even mind the bees stinging you.
Yeah, like, dude, chill out. I'm just getting my grub on. That's it. I'm gonna put you back together in a second.
You're gonna be Charlie be doing his bees. Look here, we're gonna go to single hive management. You guys chill out.
I might switch gears here this weekend about doing that.
Wait,
Well,
what?
what I found out is even though my ultimate goal is to be single brood chamber management, right?
Mhm.
Adding that second box on and giving them that room to grow up into it, to then take it away into my splits, proved pretty helpful.
Yeah,
So,
that's how
yeah.
I made all my splits so far this year, because all those hives that I had left were all doubles and triples in the winter. So I was able to just break them apart and make my splits. And I checked a couple of them today when I was doing that one split, and I did spot a couple of virgins. So my cells are starting to hatch out, the ones that they made.
thank you, Steve. Appreciate you, buddy.
So I hope they get mated.
I want to get someplace that I can make that purple honey.
That purple honey.
You haven't seen it? It's only like in the Southeast. North Carolina, South Carolina is like the only place that they make it. It's purple honey.
Yeah. You
How
know,
about that blue? The Fat B Man used to say something about a blue one. They would call it a Smurf honey or something like that.
Maybe that's the same deal. I don't know.
you we were Pam was reading that on the internet about this purple honey. I said, I've never heard of that. And you're here the next day you're talking about it.
It's the power of social media. Someone posts an Instagram post, and Bob's talking about it the next
No,
night.
I'd seen it before, but hey,
Bob is like the Chinese. He's spying on you, Charlie, and he could tell what you talked about, and he's bringing it up like a commercial.
I just got a new dealer in North Carolina for both Apis and Swarm Rustler. So,
Man, the reason I'm using my phone right now is because my laptop crashed on me. The power button broke, so I had to order another one. And I started looking up on my phone about building a PC, like I was talking about the other night, Charlie. And now, every time I turn on YouTube or Google or anything, all these PC builds come up. How you can build a PC, cheap CPUs on sale and graphics cards on sale. It's just like flooded with it. And they're like, gee whiz, they spy on you big time around here.
Yeah.
let me see. I've got
Purple is kudzu honey.
yeah, I've got kudzu, but if you're out in the country is where the kudzu really is, like on barns and taking over old buildings and stuff, where it's just old dilapidated lots that nobody keeps up, right? And it's
It makes a purple flower.
Yeah, it tastes, and Bob Benny says it tastes like grape knee-high.
Okay. Yeah.
What is that one that he says is nasty that he has, and it's
the mountain laurel, right? That's supposedly
okay.
toxic to people.
Yeah.
Let me see. I did see something kind of neat come across my social media feed earlier. I look at, and just like you're saying, so I go on websites on here, and that's how I get inundated with different beekeeping stuff. So while I'm scrolling through, I saw one for the bee supply, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I clicked the bee supply, which is Texas Bee Supply, and lo and behold, guess what product is in the ad? My product, my swarm lure, was in their ad. So
Nice.
it was like that. I like that, So that was a special thing that happened today for me. Let me see. If I was going to try to find it, but of course, when you want to find it, you can't, right? But man, I feel like Tom Brady in the commercial, right? Let's go. That's what I feel like. Right now I'm just let's go, man. Let's get this thing going. It's about that time.
Running the small business.
Oop. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm about there too. I've been opening up my hives. Like today was the first day I pulled frames and was looking at colonies, looking for mated queens. So that was nice. I reversed some colonies, some of my double deeps I reversed.
This guy was like, I think I was late for my splits.
It's like for Valentine's Day to me. It's like a heart.
Nice.
I know when I pulled those frames out today of that hive that was fixing to swarm, the bees are like layered on the frames, and like when you pick up the frame, they just like they're very slumber, like they just want to just slide down. You know, they're stacked on top of each other, and they're not actually doing anything. They're just hanging out. And it's like once I moved them to moved the queen and moved a couple of frames over to the other hive, then they started moving around again. And like,
how nice is it when you pop that open and they're all sitting there on the frame just looking up at you?
yeah, yeah.
They're like, hey, boss, what can we do for you today?
Man.
That's an awesome feeling, man, when you pop, as long as they're not flying out at you.
Yeah, like a bunch of rockets.
So Brian, what kind of weather you got out there right now? Is it getting warmer?
Today was like high 60. Tomorrow will be like high 60. And then it's going down slowly throughout the weekend. So it's kind of right on the edge, Charlie, right on the edge of getting into our bees. So they're going out and getting, like I said, they're hitting pollen, even on the cooler days, maybe an hour or two a day.
Right.
But there's no nectar. They're just starting to brood up. I got genetics, all different kinds. I got a lot of carniolan genetics. So I got some colonies that are just like 4.5 frames of brood. I got some colonies that are in 2 boxes, so they're kind of all over the place.
Sound like me this year.
Yeah. So I'm trying to manage that time to where I get those queens that I ordered from Jose. So I'm getting 30 mated queens. Not sure exactly when, right? They were first scheduled for April 15th. Really quickly, they got pushed back a week. And then
he put that video out today about his cell phone.
He's been watching, he's been posting all the weather. You've been seeing all the flooding. So I'm anticipating it getting pushed back even further. And that's kind of messing with my kind of plan, because I was going to use these as my first round of queens and then start grafting. Right. So I'm not sure if that's just going to push all the grafting plans back. Just everything's going to hit the plan of time to graft, and those queens are going to get here at the same time. So
yeah, I know a guy that might be able to have you some mated queens by then.
Yeah, exactly. Overnight them from South Carolina. But you get the struggle I'm having internally. You're right. If they come on April 15th, I'm doing this. If they come on April 23rd, I'm doing this. If they come on April 23rd, I'm doing this April 15th to prepare for April 23rd. And that's all I'm trying.
At least you're doing the same thing over and over again.
So what you should be doing right now is you should say, hey, work, I know I'm going to need to take a week of vacation because I don't know what day it's coming.
So well, no, actually, I've already done that, Bob.
You said you were doing this. You said you were doing this, and then this, and then this. So you're doing the same thing.
And then you go back to them and you say,
but I'm doing that within the swarm season, Brad. So at some point, I'm going to have to manage the swarm impulse, right? So if those queens got here at April 15th, I'm pulling brood out, and that's my swarm management for those splits.
How many hives you got?
Right now, I've got about 25. I went into winter with like 35, and I lost a bunch of mine in the fall. So, and I plan on building up to 60, which shouldn't be hard at all with those 30 queens and all that brood or all those frames that I've got drawn out already. But that's the part I'm dealing with. You're right. Absolutely, Brad. It just shifts everything back, but it shifts everything into the swarm season. That's going to make things a little bit more complicated. So I could be pulling out brood and holding them above a queen excluder if those queens are going to get here in like a week, or I'm going to have to start making my own splits without those queens and then have to deal with getting the brood for those queens when they get here. So there is, yeah, go ahead.
Don't do like I did. That's why I went into my hives today, because I had 3 hives that I had went back where I have my little honey apiary at, and I had put a lot of brood above the queen excluder, shook everything down. And then we got this cold weather that came in here for 4 or 5 days, so I didn't fool with them. And now half the brood, because it was all brood that was fixing to hatch.
Yeah.
So now I went in there today, and just about all the brood was hatched out. So I didn't have.
So you
what
got
I was
empty
looking for.
frames. Well, you just got to do it again then, I guess, right?
So, well, that's why one of them wanted to swarm, because there was so many bees in the box.
Gotcha.
They had made queen cells.
Now, one of my problems last year when I did all my splits was I didn't really think about it till I started doing all the splits, was I needed a place to put 20 colonies for like a month.
Yeah.
And this year I actually have that problem solved. I'm getting a new apiary where I can put 20 to 30 colonies all at once. So that's going to be the nice part. I'm just going to want to kind of, I'm just going to want to spread it out a little bit so I don't put a whole bunch of new ones there all at the same time.
I got a deal. So did you see Mr. Ed do the review of the Vevor box?
Yeah.
They're sending me the same box, the same double deep with 2 supers and 40 frames and bottom board.
How did you get that deal?
Well, I'm Bob. What do you think? No, I'm just kidding. They emailed me.
Oh, okay.
They
See,
got.
I bought. Let's see, it was 5 sets of those hives at the beginning of the year because they were on sale. I got the.
Does it have the side panel in it with the removable?
No.
Well, the one Mr. Ed did, it didn't have plexi in it, but it had
None of them
doors.
do.
Why would you put a door with no plexi?
The Bugman reviewed the same box as Mr. Ed. He got one in the mail that they sent to him, and he said the same thing. He said, "Well, maybe the glass is at the bottom of the box." And he took the whole box apart, and there was no plexiglass.
Well,
so it's kind of useless. And then they don't have any side opening like in the front of the hive where you can see in between the frames. It's just on the side, and all you see is like the outside honey frame. You're not going to see the queen or nothing like that, the eggs or nothing. But anyhow, I at the beginning of the season, Vevor had a clearance on the 2 deep, 2 medium hive set. I got 2 deeps, 2 mediums, all with frames, bottom board, inner cover, and
you know what? I don't know if this has a bottom board on it now that I'm looking at the photo. Yeah, it
top
does.
and a top cover. The whole setup with the entry reducer for $135 a hive. With all with frames and plastic. So
well, I'm not going to lie to you. That's one of the reasons I did it is for the frames. I need frames. So
yeah.
I'll
Now
make a video on it for
the
free
plastic-
frames and boxes.
The plastic foundation is a very thin foundation. It's very, very, cheap. But and you will have to wax it, but I mean, the boxes themselves were very good wood, very good. Hardly no knots or anything like that. Now their inner covers and stuff like that, they don't glue them, so I had to put a few nails in mine and stuff like that, just to shore them up. But
well, the
for
real
price-
question is,
for the
why
price,
would
it's a
you
good
have
deal.
viewing windows in the side of a hive with no plexi in it? Why even cut them out? I mean, makes no sense.
It's someone making it that doesn't know what you're doing, I guess.
You open it up and the bees can all fly out.
Yeah, Vevor is a big company that sells all kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever they're just getting somebody to build these for them, and I guess whoever designs them for them doesn't actually know or something, because he was supposed to call him up and ask him. Mr. Ed was.
Well,
And
she said it would ship out within 3 days. When could they expect a video? I said 7 to 14 days after I receive it, they'll have a video up.
yeah, now I did find the frames. Some of the bottom bars of the frames are too short. You gotta You got to kind of bring the box. You got to kind of squeeze them in to get them nailed.
Really?
Yeah. And they're very, very snug. Like I had to use a rubber mallet to put them together. Some of them.
Well, what I do like about them is that they do have those not finger joints. What are they called? Dovetails. The dovetails.
Yeah, the boxes. I love the boxes. The boxes fit tight, and as soon as you put them together with the dovetails, they automatically square themselves. So you don't have to worry about the box being square.
Well, hey, and they're wax. Aren't they wax sprayed or wax coated or something?
The one that has the viewing windows is wax, but the ones I got wasn't wax. I had to coat them.
Well, we'll see. I mean, they got a good. I mean, it's $239 is what they got on them now.
Yeah, that's for the one with the viewing windows, but they priced it higher because of the viewing windows, but it's useless.
Yeah, I mean, if the wood won't even go on there, if there was plexi in there.
Wait, say that again.
If there was a plexi piece, that panel wouldn't go on there.
Well, you'd have to add you a piece of plexiglass from the inside.
I might do that. I might go down to Lowe's and super glue some.
If you get you a piece of plexiglass, you'll be taking up a little bit of the B space on the inside, but that ain't nothing. But yeah, you can use it then, but they just didn't put a glass.
But yeah, they contacted me by email, and they gave me a link to their website. Pick one of these products off of here and tell me which one you want. And I sent them the link back. Okay, we can do that one. Great. It's the biggest box you have. Got the most frames, most boxes. That's the one I want to review. Thank you very much.
Well, guys,
when you're gonna get it, all the frames are gonna be loose in the box.
Yeah, Mr. Ed, when he pulled that apart, they're just laying in there.
Yeah, he was doing his, and I was thinking to myself, yep, that's how mine looked, because I had got mine before. You know, I bought mine, but I mean, I had got mine before him, and I said, yep, that's how they are.
That's the.
I don't think it's actually B people that are doing this. It's just a company that sells all kind of different stuff, and they just contract it out.
Right.
I think so too. I've seen that company. They sell a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, they sell a lot of different stuff. So they probably just get some kind of manufacturer just to cut out those and make those B boxes for them, you know, and the people doing it don't actually do Bs.
You know what's cool though? I don't know. I might have to rig that one up. I could cut a piece of plexi and laser it. So when you take it off, you see like the logo on the inside of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can rig up some LED lights that run off of solar. So when you pop it open and it lights up with my logo in it, the bees will go crazy, but yeah, hey, free equipment. That works for me.
So Bob, Paul's asking about my solar farm gig. So Paul, I got last year, I got a contract with a solar company. They're paying me to put bees on their solar farm so they can get dual use status. So I get the bees, I get the honey. They're paying me to give me an apiary. So it's a pretty good deal for me. Like I said, the big drawback is it's in Aurora. So I know, Paul, you know Colorado and the Front Range area a little bit. I'm on the west side of Denver. Aurora's on the east side of Denver. So it's like a 35-minute drive, but I get to put like 20 hives there. So I'm only doing that drive like once a week. So it's a pretty big.
What are they going to say when your bees start crapping all over their solar panels?
They don't use that thing that they put out there that shines the solar panels to one unit, do they?
Nope.
Good.
No.
Be zapping bees, they'd be like sparks on a bug zapper.
No. And like I actually got an email from the lady today. I'm waiting for them to finish it because it's under construction. It's a new solar farm. So she told me that the fence is going to be done by the end of next week. So then I'll get a key and I'll be able to start moving stuff in. But there's a fence around the perimeter, and like there's a road around the perimeter. So there's like row after row of solar panels, and they're already installed. And there's probably like a 20-foot gap between the fence and the nearest solar panel. So one of the stipulations in the contract was that the colonies couldn't be higher than 48 inches, 4 feet, so they couldn't block the solar panels, right? They didn't want them in the shade because then they couldn't do their job. So as I went there and took the tour, that was one of my questions. Do they really need to be lower than 48 inches? And they were like, no, if you put them over here on the side of the road, there's no way they're going to be in the shade. So it's going to be a pretty good deal.
You know, there is a, speaking of Vevor real quick. Oh, it says sold out. Crap. They got those bee blankets that go on a 5-gallon bucket. $69. That's not a bad deal compared to the other bee blankets that I've seen.
Yeah, that's pretty cheap.
So I should have got an extractor, right? I should have been like, yeah, I need that 8-frame beekeeping extractor.
Yeah, I think they got like a 8 medium and 4 deep spinner.
Like the one I just gave away, right?
You should have kept that thing.
Well, the giveaway that we did on that show.
Oh!
I thought I gave mine away. That was like that, and then I gave the other one away too. So they were about the same. But yeah, it's kind of neat. I mean, I didn't really start getting any, and I really don't get that many. I didn't get anybody approaching me to do any type of video on anything till after I had about 2,200. 2,200 subs was kind of like when they start giving you a little contact info, and hackers, then the hackers start sending you stuff too. So you gotta be careful.
So maybe I could start looking like in about 3 years.
It took me a long time, I think Bruce's Bees just hit 20,000 subs.
Yeah.
And Ian's, I don't want to say only got, but I thought Ian had 100,000 subs. He's got 80, I think, or 75 or 80,000.
Yeah.
But it's I need a honey house, a pickup truck, an easy loader, an extracting line.
1 year at a time, Alex. Focus on what you can get this year.
And Brian, I'm glad you came on because I made the statement the other night. I know you were in the chat and you're probably like, what are you talking about? But with the expansion, the beeconomics this year are in a conundrum. I'm filling up equipment that I've got, but I haven't talked about flipping any queens really because I'm using those queens, right? I haven't talked about really selling too many nukes or anything.
So was this your comment? What's your income stream this year?
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like,
yeah.
And with the expansion, may not make that much honey. Now, the idea is because I have more colonies, each colony has to make less honey. And this is what I'm thinking in my mind. Each colony has to make less honey per hive to make what I made this past year, right? To kind of keep things normal. But but I haven't really addressed any of that stuff. So it's kind of like, don't know. I mean, I had people calling me for queens and cells and stuff like that. I just have refused to sell anything at this point.
Yeah. And you know how I feel. I've been wanting you to put that honey extraction line, make it pay for itself, right? So if I were you, I would if it was me, let me say it that way. If it was me, I would look at how much drawn comb I have for honey. And I would look at what I have. If I had like 10 boxes worth of drawn comb, I'd think of maybe like 5 colonies that are honey production colonies and set those aside for honey because I've got that drawn comb already ready to go. If I had more comb, I might set a couple more aside just to make sure I get a little bit of income from honey, right? and just make sure I go, okay, these 5 hives or 5 hives at this time of the season, these are going to be honey production colonies, and all those honey supers are going to end up on those 5. You can make a lot of honey off of 5 colonies.
So right now, where I'm at, time-wise, this time next month will be in flow.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. So that gives me a brood cycle and a half to get my colonies back to where
the single brood chamber, right? That's right.
Brood chamber management, so I can start stacking my honey supers on. Now, with that being said, I do have a few colonies that I haven't split and haven't touched, right? And right now, I don't feel like I have a need to do that. Because if my thing is now get the colonies that I've split queen right.
Right.
Get them queen right. And then do that. Then we're in a different little atmosphere going on, right? So
Bob, when you started that conversation, I almost threw this in the comments as a joke, but I want you to pursue this as a mental exercise anyway. Imagine this business model, not a honey packer, a honey straw packer. You go out and you invest in one of those honey straw machines, and that's the service you provide. You put people's honey in their straws, or you put your own honey in straws, and you don't sell it by bulk. You sell it like the opposite, right? You sell it by the straw, not by the bucket or the 55-gallon drum. How much would that change your profit potential if that was your business model versus the other? And honestly, I have no idea, but wouldn't that be an interesting kind of exercise?
If he buys that one that was at Hive Life, that straw filler,
right?
That's a piece of crap.
Well, imagine a really good one out there. Come on, buddy. Because this is what started me thinking about it. Like I buy honey straws and I sell them
all day to fill enough straws to make money, because that thing, it feels so slow. I was watching that girl do it, and I'm there like, forget this.
Someone's out there's got the right machine for doing a lot of them, right? I buy honey straws by the thousands, and I buy them from this company in Utah, and I know some of the honey is their own honey. So, like, what would that change? Like, how much money could you make on a 5-gallon bucket?
Wait, you said
and
you put it into you buy them by the what? By the thousands?
By the thousands, yes, sir.
What do you do? You do with them? You sell them?
Yeah, I sell at markets, Brad. So I
sell straws.
Yeah.
So what you're selling them? What, for $3 for $1 or something like that?
2 for $1 all day long, Charlie.
Well, the guy who was selling some at our market before I even that's what got me into bees. I met this guy at a market. He was selling straws, but it wasn't his honey. He was buying straws somewhere and just selling the straw. And he goes, "Here, taste one." He says, "It's not my honey," but he says, "I said, well, what kind of honey is it?" He says, "Well, I don't know." So I didn't know if I was getting sugar water or not.
Right.
It's just like.
And you can buy 50 different flavors of honey straws. I can buy 1,000 for like $140 and turn that into $500 if I sell them 2 for $1. Right now, imagine if that was my honey. What's the profit margin on that?
Now, I saw somebody doing, they were using, those clear plastic, like mustard and ketchup bottles, the clear ones with the point on it, and they were just sticking it in the end, squeezing it full, crimping one end, crimping the other end, done. But still, you're flinch.
Right. So that was going to be my joke comment when you needed an income stream for the year, was a honey straw packer, right? A new business model.
I did something a little bit different today. I'm an entrepreneurial spirit, right? As you say.
Right.
So I came across, has everybody heard of Steak and Shake restaurants?
Yep.
Yeah.
Steak and Shake franchise. The franchise is $10,000, and you basically
That's cheap for a franchise.
you're franchised into an existing restaurant, so it's an established restaurant or one that they've kind of designated like company restaurants and franchise restaurants. But at any rate, it's $10,000, and you're the owner / operator of a Steak and Shake restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So I did send them an email today, like, can I get a little more information on this process and what it takes? Because for 10 grand, they guarantee your first year to make 100 grand. So that's guaranteed in writing, right? If you,
well, you're basically like a owner manager type deal.
yeah, it's still their store, right? You can't like when you leave, you don't. If you grow that business, you're not carrying any equity with you. That's the drawback. But my thinking is, but if I'm making 100 grand the first year, I've turned 10 grand into a 90 grand profit over a 12-month period. So
How many hours you got to be putting in there? And
Well,
are you going to be working?
that's
You're going to be working every weekend because it's a restaurant business.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but any good manager hires good managers to run this place.
Try
for
to
them.
find people to hire.
My whenever I was in high school, which was many years ago, I worked at our McDonald's here in the parish, and the owner, he was from Kentucky, and he had moved down to Louisiana because Louisiana had some of the lowest price franchises on McDonald's. And he built a McDonald's here, then he built another one like in the next parish, and then he built another one a parish over. He had them spread out within like 5 parishes. And he basically had to pay $100,000 for a McDonald's franchise. And it worked out good after he got his second one because they required him to buy everything through them. And on top of that, he had to give them 30% of his profits, not his gross, his net. And he said he had no control over the food prices or anything like that. Whatever they sold him a box of hamburger patties, that's what he had to buy it for. There was no negotiation, no nothing.
Right.
And whenever they ran a sale, he had to follow the sale. Like if they said Big Macs are 99 cents today, he had to do it. So he said it got to a point to where he wasn't really an owner. He was basically just a manager who had to follow all their directions.
Right.
And they would charge what they wanted. And then, it just depended on how well he ran it. To boost the profits of the store, that's how much money he would get. So he built 5 stores, and then he sold all his franchises after he built those 5 stores to one tycoon there and retired. But he made enough money to retire off of it. But
yeah, those are just things that I always keep feelers out on. Right? Doesn't mean that will ever happen, but hey, they ask you questions like, "Do you have the $10,000?"
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've got it, but
and then
they
they
spend it or not. No.
Me and my wife had looked into we was gonna try to invest in a Subway franchise. Well, and if we'd have found the right location, we were gonna do it. But one of their things was every so many years the building had to be remodeled, and that was your responsibility. And it had to be a minimum of like an $80,000 remodel. So every 5 years, you were going to have to come up with $80,000 to remodel that building and change logos and whatever Subway was changing their signs and stuff too. You had to do that too.
You would think that they have that built into, like, they handle all the accounting and everything, right? And payroll. Oh, they didn't?
No.
So with
No.
Steak and Shake, they handle all the payroll, all of the accounting, everything, right? It's computerized. So
No. Subway was you do everything, but you had to buy the food from them. You had to go through training through a school in Chicago with them on how to prepare everything, and you had to remodel the store and keep up with their ads, and that was and then they got, I think theirs was like a 20% cut off the top.
20% off the top.
Yeah.
Well,
And it was a $35,000, I think, franchise.
but then you had to get your lease and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, you had to get your lease, and you were responsible for the lease. So that was one of the things that came up, because we were gonna buy a Subway that a man was selling. He was selling his franchise, but his building, he didn't own the building, and Subway didn't own the building. They were leasing the building, and the people that were leasing the building didn't want to release. They wanted to redo their lease, and they wanted to go up on the amount,
Right.
and it couldn't be negotiated. So we just gave
See,
up.
that's where McDonald's makes the money. If you've ever watched The Founder, have you seen that one with Michael Keaton, where he basically stole the McDonald's franchise from the actual owners, the people that own McDonald's?
No, I never saw that.
You need to watch it. It's a great movie called The Founder. And at any rate, so he was setting up all these franchisees, and they said he was broke. He wasn't making any money. Making, by the time he paid the McDonald brothers and everything,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't making any money. And he ran into a guy from Tasty Freeze. He said, well, see, you've got it all wrong. You think you're in the burger making business. You're not. You're in the real estate business. He says, what you need to be doing is buying the properties and then leasing those properties that the McDonald's are on. And part of the lease stipulation is that you follow all the franchise guidelines. So that's when he started making money, when he was buying the properties and leasing them to the franchisees and getting paid that monthly mortgage or lease payment, which allowed him to buy more properties, and then he was able to expand and grow that way. But
Yeah.
let me see. Flower Street Farm B sounds like an answer from a math teacher. Yeah, that's the as far as beekeeping, making money, I thought about opening a shop, even if it didn't have beekeeping supplies, just a little boutique that was nothing but different types of honey, just honeys, whether it was my honey that was local, or I got some from Brian out in Colorado, or any of you guys, right? It was like I had a case of Brad's honey from Louisiana down here, and you said, hey, this is tallow honey, right? And then Brian says, well, this honey is from
Electrified. Brian's is gonna be electrified because it's gonna have them solar panels.
nuclear honey,
Glow in the dark.
or something like that. But then it's like, I mean, if you had that, then you would have to advertise. You'd have the overhead of the business and the electricity and all that stuff. Could you generate enough profit to warrant doing something like that? That's the same thing I'm struggling with a bee supply store. It's like I could open a bee supply store and I could have stuff brought in, but then it's like, well, then you got all this extra expense. And with what I'm doing right now, I don't really have that kind of expense. So
I know, it's like my friend Lloyd. He's a Man Lake dealer, but every time we turn around, Man Lake keeps putting the screws to him as far as the profit margin and that kind of stuff.
which is why he needs to carry my swarm lure, Charlie. Plenty of profit margin in there for him.
Well, it's almost midnight. I'm out of here. I'll talk to y'all later.
Yeah,
All right.
me too. I'm going to bed too.
Well, we got tomorrow night for sure. And
All
Brian,
right.
it's
Yeah.
like 8:00 his time over there. 9:00 probably.
Who, me?
Me, it's almost 10. Yeah.
Almost then, yeah.
No, me it's almost 11.
Yeah, I'm almost midnight here too. But you know, tomorrow, bring your topics, guys. Tomorrow will be a bring your topic day as usual. And
So do some shopping, and we'll do some comparison pricing for honey straw machines.
I think I've seen 2, right? However,
I would think that thing would be a continuous straw where they fill it and they would just crimp it, which that also
I think I could make it.
Like a sausage.
I think I could make it out of my bottle filler machine that I bought at the Hive Life conference because it goes by weight, right? And if I calculate how much weight was in each straw and had a way for those straws to sit on top of that weight tray and pump it till they were at that specific, I could line up a valve or a T that had lines coming off of it to these straws.
Okay, well, picture this. You buy that straw filling machine that was over there at Hive Life that spun around like a Ferris wheel on the side.
Centrifuge.
Yeah. Now, you set this thing up, and she says you got to let it run for a while to fill the straws up. You put your straws on there, and you don't get one straw in there right, and you leave the room.
And shoot honey all over your room.
And you come back, and your whole room is covered in honey that it's slung all over the walls and everything.
Nah.
Daisy's like, forget that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you.
All right.
All right,
good
good night.
night.
All right, guys.
But there's definitely things. Hold on, I'm going to end the stream. So hang out for a second, Brian.
Yeah.
Guys, we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks, everybody. Steve, thank you for the super chat. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Good night. And